Welcome to the Climate Champions. I'm Lee Krevat, and I'm here with Chen, CEO and co-founder of StepWise. Chen, welcome to the Climate Champions.
Thank you for having me. It's exciting to be here at DTech as well.
I've been at Distributed Tech for 3 decades. Distributed Tech has changed a lot.
All right. I can't wait to hear more about that.
Yeah. Well, this is your first time?
Second time, actually.
Second time.
Yes.
That's exciting.
So I was here last year in Dallas.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
And we didn't even know each other then.
That's right. Exactly.
What was your pivotal moment? What first made you feel like you had to get engaged
Yeah.
to fight against climate change?
It's a good question because I did not start my career in climate. You know, when I was in school, climate was not a hot button topic. Like, it was not something that people talked about a lot. Actually, very few of my peers even went into it per se. I started my career in healthcare. And for me, I was always very passionate about what are the basic building blocks to give everyone the chance to live their life to the fullest. And so for me at that time, it was health because everyone needed physical capabilities, mental capabilities. I worked in healthcare for about, 5-6 years. And essentially it was during COVID, I think, that was the pivotal moment. And the reason I say that was because it was the first time I saw the intricate linkage between environmental health and personal health. So I mentioned that, physical health is a building block to enable everyone to perform. But during COVID, I lived in Michigan, and there were multiple neighborhoods in that state where there were many places that were polluted that saw higher mortality rates. It became really apparent to me that it wasn't just physical health that mattered, but also environmental health. So that was the first kind of big realization. The second thing that actually caused me to take action was I took up a job in Asia where I was working for an EV charger OEM looking to internationalize, so go abroad. And specifically, I was focused on Europe and Southeast Asia. And my big realization was, oh my God, this industry is so dynamic. It is very global. It is nascent with a lot of opportunities. And most importantly, I saw the opportunity where things could actually be good for the planet and good for your pocketbook. And I thought that was a very interesting realization. I wanted to do something about it to get more people behind this big transformation.
What drives you? Why is this personally important to you?
There are actually a couple of ways to answer that. I think for me, personally, I am a big outdoorsy person. On the weekends, you'll find me going for a walk, strolling, thinking. Like I am at my best when I'm in nature. And so I think when I see the big changes around us and potentially thinking about, how this might not be viable for the future generation, my future generation, it saddens me. And so there's that kind of personal feeling of like, I want to preserve this. But I think even more than that, and this is going to sound really weird,
Okay.
but when it comes to human behavior, I've always been of the mindset that people want to do the best things for everyone else around them, but they're not always capable of making the decision unless it's really easy and obvious for them. And I feel like climate is one of those unique industries where you can actually do well and do good. And there's something about the ability to help society, but also bringing wealth to yourself and helping yourself. That's just a very unique kind of business proposition. And I know it might sound weird, it might sound cheesy, but I love the ability to find that balance between the two. And I think it drives me when I know that what I'm doing actually helps the planet and it helps the individual in the process.
When my older daughter was in college, and she was studying computer science at Berkeley, she felt bad because she felt that she'd be able to make money with computer science, but not really help the planet and help people. And I said, no, look at me. I was a computer science major. Your life zigs and your life zags and you don't know where it's going to go.
Exactly.
As long as you know how to do things, you're paying attention, you're learning, you will be able to follow your heart and also make money.
Exactly. And I think what's important is that if you're solving a big problem that people care about, the money will come.
I believe that 100%.
Yeah, me too.
I stopped asking this question, but I want to ask it because times are changing again.
Yes.
When you meet people that don't believe in climate change, don't believe there's an issue.
Yeah.
How do you explain it to them so they understand?
I actually go about that by not explaining climate change, or I don't even use the terms climate change, but I think that there's a couple of facts that everyone can get behind. I think number one, the fact that the climate is changing. I mean, for instance, I live in DC. East Coast, we were hit by this huge storm, right? Bizarre because DC never gets more than a couple of inches of snow, and we had a couple of feet of snow.
Yeah.
And that wasn't even just DC, it was Miami as well. And so I think it's inevitable that the climate is changing. And I think everyone can get behind that. I think the second point actually goes back to what I was saying about doing well and doing good. When you bring individuals' personal interests. So for instance, when we talk about electric vehicles, in California, I think it's widely known that EVs are not just good for the planet, but they're also just fun to drive and you can save a lot of money.
I can never imagine driving anything but an EV again. It's
exactly
so much fun.
And so my point is, like, instead of talking about, oh, we're doing this to combat climate change, it could be reframed as, well, isn't this a cool vehicle to drive? By the way, you can save a lot of money on your gas and it's also good for the planet. And so reframing the conversation to be not focused on climate change, but more as a feel good.
And I think that's what the industry is trying to do.
Yeah.
So tell me exactly what you and StepWise, what do you do?
Yeah.
To help mitigate climate change?
My favorite question. I mean, as you can tell, like, I am a pragmatic thinker when it comes to how we tackle this problem of climate change, both in terms of individual incentive alignment, as well as kind of the change that this entire industry has to undergo. And so the best way to describe StepWise is that we enable people to make the best decisions in how they use and convert from natural gas to electricity in their day-to-day. And the way you can think about how we fit into that equation is, you know, I mentioned EVs, heat pumps, water heaters, all of these things that people are now converting to electricity in their end use at home. But the challenge is the grid, infrastructure, your electric panel is not always able to support that. And so at StepWise, we built a behind-the-meter solution that allows anyone to add electric appliances without worrying about that infrastructure constraint, which means saving money, time, but at the same time, setting up the grid to be more resilient so that we can adapt to all of this growing load. So see StepWise as the building block for the good of the future, an enabler towards this transition.
A lot of the other people at this conference need to work with utilities in order to be successful.
Yep.
So I think one of the exciting things about your technology is that you don't have to work with the utility. You can and you should.
Yes.
There's benefit there.
Yeah.
You're helping the utility, but you really, because you're behind the meter, you don't need to work with the utility.
Yes. And I think that that's the only way to engender change, where we're going to need many advocates and many different partners, but knowing that each of those partners has some sort of value to gain from what we do. And it's an incremental process. Actually, it comes from even the concept of StepWise. We believe that electrification, this transition, is going to be step by step. And so to your point, we actually start by working with installers and contractors who use us to convert customers better, because now they can reduce friction, reduce costs. It helps the homeowner because they're saving money and time and getting peace of mind. And then as we deploy more and more devices out there, then the utility pays attention because it helps to plug into their either managed charging or demand response programs. So it's really a win-win-win, but in that phase.
It is win-win-win.
Yes, yes. I mean, that was the whole theme I started with. Yeah.
It's good for your pocketbook and good for the planet.
Exactly.
What is your prior background? How did you get where you are?
Good question. I've had a bit of a meandering path towards this. Zigzag, yeah. So my background is actually in chemistry and operations. I did a dual degree at University of Pennsylvania and Wharton. And then I mentioned I started my career in healthcare. I actually worked in hospital operations in India for a while, and then worked in healthcare consulting, where most of my clients at the time were hospitals and insurance companies. Interesting because there's actually a lot of parallels that you can draw from healthcare into climate in terms of misaligned incentives and just a very opaque system for the average person. And then from there, I mentioned that I had this kind of eureka moment around physical health, environmental health. And so I ended up taking a job in Asia where I worked for the EV charger OEM. That's where I really learned about kind of this industry and EV charging, and also gained a bit of a global perspective around what some of these other countries are doing right. When I came back to the US, I actually remember I distinctly had this realization that we were very behind when it came to EV adoption, electrification. So I dabbled in a lot of random things at that time, volunteered a bit for the city of Ann Arbor. I used to live in Michigan, I mentioned. I did a couple of infrastructure projects where I was trying to bring in large, fast chargers that were, quote unquote, cheaper, and figuring out how we can install them so that we can reduce overall infrastructure costs. Then I started a company when I was in business school, helping people install EV chargers. And so I've sort of experienced the gamut from just a lot of different projects, chasing different pain points that I thought were deeper and deeper into this mix.
Really experimenting and learning as you went until you found the thing.
Yes.
That's awesome. Can you talk about setbacks that you've had?
Oh gosh, where to begin? It's a loaded question because, if I could talk to myself from 5 years ago, I probably would give myself a lot of advice on how to approach things.
Would you still have this company?
I mean, it's hard to say. As in, because this company came out of many experiences and, realizations I had in the industry, it's like if I did things differently, would I have had the same realizations? I don't know. But I do think that fundamentally where this company sits and the problem is solved is core to what I believe in. So I would assume, had I meandered in a different path, I would eventually end up here.
So a specific setback you would have warned yourself about?
A specific setback is probably around people. And I would say in the early startup days, like figuring out how to prioritize and focus more effectively. And I think this is one of those very trite things that anyone who's starting a business or is reading a startup book, hears. Like, don't overbuild, don't, do too many things, got to find your focus.
Focus.
Right. But in practice, it's very difficult because when you're a fast growing startup, everybody wants a piece of your mind share and everybody wants to give you feedback on how to be.
Yeah.
And while it's very useful and most people really are genuinely trying to help, it's hard to parse out what you want to internalize and what you don't. And so I think that we made a series of mistakes when it came to hiring the wrong people, not firing fast enough, and then focusing on too many different things in the early days where I felt like we wasted time. As a startup, the single biggest resource you have is time and your ability to control that. So I would say that's probably one of the biggest setbacks that caused us a lot of churn and just kind of chaos in the middle years.
That was a lot of advice.
I'm sorry.
No, it was great. It was great. It was, focus.
Yeah.
Don't take all advice you get.
Yes.
You have to really be careful about what advice you bring in and what you don't. Don't hire poorly.
Yeah.
Fire quickly if you made a bad hire.
Yeah.
Those are super important.
I agree.
Okay, we flip it.
Mm-hmm.
Biggest success you've had. Success you're most proud of.
Oh, gosh. Success we're most proud of. Just one?
No, you can give me more.
Okay, I would say if I had to pick two things, let's say, the first is really finding a team. And I mean individuals we work with, but also investors who are so deeply aligned with our mission and the way we want to grow the business. And what I mean by that is, oftentimes in the startup world, it's especially kind of as you think about energy, it's easy to want to go really, really fast and blow your budget on marketing or to grow as fast as you can. And I think that we have a good balance between innovation, continuous improvement, but also growing at a pace that makes sense for both hardware as well as for our industry, which are electricians, utilities, kind of slower moving. And so I think being able to strike that balance is because we have individuals in the team who really deeply believe in what we're trying to do and want to build it right. And then at the same time, investors who are supportive of that mission. So I'd say that's probably the biggest thing that I'm proud of. Yeah.
I think of balance, and it's a word I use a lot.
Yeah.
It's about your life.
Yeah.
Keeping it in balance.
Yes.
Really, it's a fantastic word in so many ways. Like you just said, investors, employees, mission of the company, customers, keeping all that in balance.
Yeah.
Is so exciting and important.
Exactly. And I would say the second thing that is more just top of mind is we are going to be starting two very exciting utility pilots this year, which means that we're finally starting to see that transition from focus only on installers to now being on the radar of several major utilities on the East Coast.
Yeah, I mentioned before, it's difficult working with utilities, but it can be very, very rewarding when you have the right partnership, you have the right product, and you're rowing in the same direction.
Yes, so we're looking forward to that.
When you look at the world 20, 30 years from now, and I know it's hard to do given so much is happening right now in the world. It's hard to look that far ahead. What do you see with regards to climate change and energy, EVs?
Those are three actually kind of different concepts. 20 to 30 years from now, I guess going back to this theme of balance, I guess I don't see anything dramatic in the sense that the entire grid will be any which way or that 100% of vehicles will be EVs. I think that there's going to be a healthy mixture between, let's say, vehicles that use electricity versus gas versus potentially anything else like hydrogen in a way that makes the most kind of financial sense. Like there's the most financial balance. I truly believe that electricity makes a lot of sense for personal vehicles. And so I see the mix skew towards electricity. So in other words, I see 20 to 30 years as being the time horizon when the market has time to actually play itself out. And my gamble has always been on what's good for the planet and for the pocketbook. And I think that's going to be more electricity end uses more appliances that are going to be conducive to these electricity end uses, as well as where the grid's going, and being able to bring in the homeowner, the consumer, as part of the solution, where individuals might feel a little bit more empowered, either because of transparency, financial incentives, and just better data. I guess I see the grid not being completely revamped or reshaped, but seeing a lot more of these solutions that bring the grid and individuals closer together so that people can actually be a part of the solution.
If that happens, and if electricity wins because of that,
Yes.
and renewable energy or nuclear energy,
Yeah.
carbon-free energy,
Yeah.
greenhouse gas-free energy is what makes that electricity, then the world wins too.
Exactly. And that's how I always like to frame everything.
What's some advice that you have for people that want to help with climate change but don't know how to get started?
This is going to sound really simple, but I think don't overthink it and just gravitate and try the first thing that you see. What I mean by that is, I think that climate as an industry is so nascent that we need every type of skill set that exists. There's a lot of jobs that we will need in the future that don't even exist today. Like, for instance, when I started, right, I dabbled, I experimented, I tried to find my niche. And I think the single best way to get started is to find something in climate that you find interesting. Maybe it's about volunteering. Maybe it's about the book club that you've always wanted to have with your friends, but some way to get into it so you start to ask the right questions and you meet the right people. And I think that a lot of times these jobs, these opportunities, just they present themselves once you're in the space. And so I guess like I have this doer first mentality. It's like, just do something.
You gave me an idea that might exist.
Okay.
I don't want to steal it.
Okay.
Somebody else's idea. You said book club, which isn't really a climate thing. But then I thought, what if there was a book club?
Yeah.
Probably is, that focused on books, not necessarily only about climate, but how to do good for the world.
Yes.
You read books and then talked about how you could do good.
I'm actually a part of at least one book club. And what I like about book clubs is that it engenders conversations and ways of thinking that you might not otherwise have by yourself.
Yeah.
And so when I say do something for some people, it's like taking action, I'm going to plant a tree. For others, it could just be talking about it, but then through that process, maybe you change your own thinking, or maybe someone in the group learns from your thought process. And I think that that's just as valid to present change.
I say do what you can.
Yes. Yeah.
It's hard for a lot of people, so do what you can.
Yes.
Do you have any questions for me?
Oh, I love that. I have multiple questions.
No.
But maybe where we can start is, since you mentioned that, you've been to DTech for like the past 30 years, you've been in this industry for a long time. What is the single biggest change you've seen this industry undergo? Or maybe, pick your top three.
Okay. I'll try to do three things.
Okay.
One is the size. This used to be a much smaller conference attended by mostly people buying equipment, field people in charge of what kind of wire you want.
Right.
It's really expanded. There was very little software, extremely little software. Now it's almost all software. So it's all about the software.
Okay.
Definitely some modernized hardware.
Yeah.
So much software. Two is, we talked about climate change.
Yes.
And smart grid wasn't even a thing when it started. And now it doesn't even make sense as a term because everything is about, like, why call it smart grid? Everything is about how do you leverage technology in order to make the grid function better. It's just what the grid is now is smart grid. There's no not smart grid.
That's fair.
So if there ever was one. And three is the number of startup companies.
Oh,
like it used to be really dominated by established companies. And now there are startup companies everywhere and new companies that you've never seen before. So many at Distributech.
Yeah.
It's incredible how many startups and just first timers there are.
Yes, I agree. And I'm curious then, if you were to look forward 30 years as well, what is the single biggest trend you would bet on with regards to energy?
Well, one negative thing I didn't say is how much is the same.
Okay.
As 10, 20 years ago. Too much is the same and just talk and not do. So what trend will catch on? I think that non-utilities making their own energy and investing in electric generation is going to be a stronger and stronger trend. And the only way that's not going to be a trend is if utilities really change quick, because there's just too many industries dependent on energy that don't want to wait on electric utility timelines.
Makes sense. Makes sense.
And maybe that's for a good reason. The utilities go, so it is for a good reason, but it might not cut it anymore.
Got it.
It's going to be interesting changes who generates energy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And do you see AI and data centers playing a big role in that?
Huge role in that.
Yeah.
But many things. When I was facilitating
Yeah.
EV charging conversations at the Department of Energy, there were companies like UPS and FedEx saying we need it next year. Utilities on the same call. I was facilitating saying, well, we need 3 years. They said 3 years. As soon as there's electric vehicles that we could deliver with, we're using them. We're not waiting 3 years.
Yeah.
And so the timelines just don't match. And again, for good reason, but it's still a problem.
Yes.
Thank you for asking me those questions. And now I'm going to wrap this up. And I'm going to wrap it up with a rap.
Oh, wow.
Well, people's health you held dear. So that's why you went into healthcare. You found a way to help your pockets and people's health. And that's why you began it. It's so exciting that you can make money while helping the planet. You're so exciting and you think people should get involved in things that are well and good. You don't even have an energy degree. You actually studied chemistry. I know I talked a little bit about the futility, but if you get in good and you're aligned, you can do great things with a utility. I'm excited about the day where there's EVs in every lane. I think you're going to succeed because you understand your customer's pain. This kind of thing, in some ways, it's kind of insane. Thank you so much, Jane.
Oh, round of applause. That was excellent. Your improv experience clearly shines. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. It was a pleasure.